Well, hello, YouTube. Um, that was a weird intro. I don't think I've ever heard anybody ever say um, hello, YouTube for an intro. So I just want to try something different. This is my first video. Um, I'm Hawkeye. That's my YouTube name, Professor Hawkeye. If you want to be really technical, I'm not that old, so you don't really have to call me Professor, but it just sounds cool, so that's why I picked it. Anyway, that's not the point. Today I'm going to share with you how I created a game in under 24 hours. I know that's crazy time. I'm a CIT major, and for my final project for my intro to computing, my intro to computing class, and we had to create something with the knowledge of the game from the semester because we learned Python. Python is like a low-level language. It's not really. I think that's what it's called, low-level, right? It's a low-level language. Low-level language. Basically, it's really easy for people to understand and computers to for us to communicate with computers. Programming language is that's what a low-level language is, where it's easy for us to communicate with computers. A high-level language would be, and I might actually be saying this wrong, because I feel like a high-level language is the language that would be that we can understand. I don't remember. Actually, you know what? I can Google it. Why don't we just Google? Give me like 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back and I was wrong. So a high-level language is what's easy for people to understand. So Python would be a high-level language. And a low-level language is kind of harder to understand, but it's easier for the computer to understand, so it requires less processing power. I just find Python is not bad. Python is not a bad language. It's a pretty good language. I would just prefer first language for you to learn if you're learning a language. However, I prefer C#. It's something that I'm going to be using in the future for future projects. That's besides the point, though. We're not talking about future projects. We're talking. Wow, my words today. We're talking about how I created a game in 24 hours. Less than 24 hours, actually. It's crazy. So, what I did. First, I had to come up with 3 different ideas that I'd submit to my professor. The 3 ideas were a turn-based combat game that is set within the terminal, like the Python terminal. The second idea was a boss fight made in Pygame. Pygame is not a game engine, but it's like a game engine. It's a place where you can use Python to create. You can create games and other types of projects, but it's not a game engine, but you can use it to make games. It's very interesting. I would suggest looking into it. The last idea was also made in Pygame, and it was to make an obstacle game, like a game where you dodge obstacles in Pygame. I've never used Pygame at all in my whole life, but I thought it'd be fun to try to use it, just to try something new. However, the computer that I had could not run Python. It was a Chromebook. If you know anything about Chromebooks, while they are fantastic for schoolwork, Chromebooks aren't really the best for making games. So I had to get a different computer. Luckily, I was in the process of getting it. And you're probably thinking, why would I put why would I choose to make a game that I can't make? Why would I put Pygame as one of the options? Well, one of the reasons was because I was supposed to receive a new computer soon, and so I was like, I can just do it when I get my new computer, and it should be fast. And the second reason, I forgot about writing the script, but it was because why is it? It was because I could just write the code and then put it in later when I got my computer. So I can just do that like that. And so that was the plan for me making the games. Not games. For me making one game. I didn't make multiple games in 24 hours. That's crazy. But if you have done that before, that's awesome. But not the point. I keep getting sidetracked. I need to focus on what I'm talking about. I've been talking for like 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, and I still haven't got to the main point of this game. Anyway, let's stay focused. So, I was supposed to make a game for my final project, and I ended up running out of time because I had a lot of work that I had to catch up on and stuff like that. So I only had about one day to make this game. It was a Thursday and everything was due on Friday. So I'm like, okay, I need to lock in, I need to grind. So I opened up a doc at 10 p.m. and started writing down my pseudocode and my game loop. And this is basically the game loop for the game. It was you play as a character with different attacks. I ended up choosing the turn-based game. And the goal is to beat as many enemies as possible without dying. And then when you die, the game starts over, and you begin back at level 0 with 0 items, and the player is trying to reach a high score, enemies defeated. And it gets progressively harder as the game continues, and you also get more difficult enemies. And this is a turn-based game. In the term, Python term. I don't need to specify that, but why not? Now, this idea was great in concept and probably sounds fantastic. However, I only had approximately 24 hours to complete this game. So it wasn't really effective. So I had to narrow it down to just fighting a boss-like enemy, and there's no leveling up. So you kind of just have all the items that I had initially set out to put in that game. So I had to limit the scope, which really helped me a lot with finishing the project on time. I actually finished a little early. I still turned it from like 11, 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, but it was still finished early, so I didn't really have to worry about that anymore. And so I run my pseudocode, and basically this is how the game runs. So you ask the player if they want to start, the user wants to start. If yes, then the program will continue. If no, then it ends. Then I defined the game function. And this is the game function is like how the whole game works. It's random roll, so it randomly selects a number to see who goes first. If you pick, it randomly selects a number to see who go first. If you pick heads, then in the game it's 1. So if you pick 1, or you pick between 1 and 0. If whatever it randomly picks, the number that the computer randomly generates. If it matches, then you get to go first. You don't get to see it, but you can kind of guess which number it was based on your first one. So if the player is first, you allow this player to select an attack. If it's set to true, then if you set player turn to true, display the attack options. And if the player is first, allow the player to select an attack. Then you tell the player how much damage the enemy took from their attack, and if they missed it or if they made it or not. Otherwise, you set the player turn to false. You have the enemy pick an attack and display how much damage the player took. Once I finished my pseudocode, I turned on some early 2000s worship music, which is like my favorite music of all time. And then I locked in. Like when I say I locked in, I mean I was sitting in my room at my desk with the light on, the same song on for probably like 6 hours, and it was amazing. And I ended up finishing the majority of my game by the time that I was done. By the time I reached 5 a.m., I was done. Basically, with most of my game, I had a little bit left to do. At the beginning, I did have Copilot review my code, the AI. I'm not like a huge fan of AI, but I do like using it to check my code. And I think it works fantastic because I was having some difficulties, so I used to check my code. And after that, it was smooth sailing. The first thing I did, let me go through the whole process of the game. So the first thing I did was I imported the random and time modules. Now, modules in Python are like little libraries of code of different functions that you can use. So the time and random function, I imported random because in a turn-based game, there's a lot of random chance. If you never played a turn-based game, there's a lot of random chance, like Fire Emblem, perfect example. I've never played Fire Emblem, but it is a turn-based game. There's also Final Fantasy. That's another example of a turn-based game, at least the old Final Fantasies. Dragon Quest. I can't think of any on the spot, but you get the point. Those are turn-based games. They use a lot of randomness. There's a lot of randomness in those games. There's also randomness in Super Smash Bros. With Mr. Game & Watch. He uses randomness as well with one of his attacks. And so those are some examples of random chance, and that's why I want to include it in this turn-based game. Because it's a turn-based game. So some things are going to be random, like the enemy's attacks are going to be random. So I imported the time module to add suspense. It's the second module. Add suspense to the gameplay because the terminal prints things really fast and immediately. So I wanted to slow things down a little bit so they will have more impact on the user when they read like what's going on. It kind of works like Pokemon. I haven't played Pokemon. I don't like Pokemon. But I've seen some gameplay footage, and so it kind of like displays um, information like Pokemon. Like, oh, this attack hit. Oh, this attack didn't hit. Oh, this attack deals this much damage. So that's how it would work, and it delays it. Because otherwise, it would just be immediate. Everything would appear on the screen immediately. You gotta like read over. But I like to delay it because it just adds, more. It's more humanized. It's readable and it's not as overwhelming with all this stuff on the screen. You're like, oh. And so, yeah. So at the beginning of the game, the console prompts the user if they would like to play. They say yes, it starts the game. They say no, then it ends the program. You already know about that stuff. Next, I define a function called game. And in that function, I define specific variables. So I define A type and E type, which is the attack type of, these are variables. A type and E type, which is the attack type of the player and of the enemy respectively. Then I also have player moves, which is a dictionary containing different player attack options and the name of the attack. And so it goes first, the attack the dictionary defines one, and one is defined as a list. And the list is in this order: its name, then attack points, then the accuracy of the attack, which different attacks have different accuracy, and then a defense stat. And not every attack has a defense stat. Most of them have 0. The only one that has a defense stat is Shield. Shield also has an attack stat, it's 1. But its defense stat is, I believe it's 3. And so, that is how that works. The game function runs as follows. It asks the player to pick a number between 1 or 0 to simulate a coin flip. If the player wins, they go first. If they lose, the enemy goes first. And uses the random range function to pick a number. And then sets player turn to true or false depending on when the coin flip. If, did I say coin flip? If it's the player's turn, it's displayed to the console, and all the player's moves are shown to them, their move options. And the player is prompted to pick a move number, and it's between 1 and 3. There's 3 options. So, the player's options between moves are Sword, which deals 5 damage, Blaster, which deals 3 damage, and Shield, which deals 1 damage and blocks the attack partially. The game runs random range. In order to see if the player hits. If they do hit, then it attacks. If they don't hit, then it tells the player that they missed. If the player rolls a critical hit, it is twice the amount of the normal attack. But the enemy code works in the exact same way when it's not the player's turn, except the enemy's attack options are not displayed to the player. Enemy's attack options, I believe, are just laser and punch. But I don't remember what it's called. It's called punch. Laser and punch, not punch like fruit punch. Punch is in like you get hit in the face, like you want a knuckle sandwich punch. I'm not threatening anything. I'm just telling you what the robot's attacks are. Okay, listen. Yeah. When the enemy or the player is defeated, the game ends, and the message saying you win or you lose is displayed depending on the outcome. Then the function is exited, and the message thanks for playing is printed. Like I said, I was listening to like 5 a.m. Then I did my daily Devo. Then I got on prayer in the morning. Then I slept until like the afternoon. I wanted to wake up for class, but then I was just super tired. Then I also added later, back to the work I turned it in. I added Japanese emoticons. It just came in my brain while I was thinking about bed. And I was like, oh, that'd be so cool. So I added a happy face list and a sad face list to the list of some of the variables that I had. That was something that I added. And basically, what the emoticons are for is just to add little characters. Just let it be like you're just staring at a black screen with white characters on it. So I was like, let me add a little character. So I added faces. Happy faces show up when your character succeeds in an attack. Sad faces show up when they miss an attack or when they get hit. And so I just thought that was a cool thing to add. The Japanese emoticons look silly to me. Silly in a good way. And so it's just that was something I really enjoyed actually adding to the game. After that, I submitted the video explaining the game, which is not this video, but it was completely different, way more professional than this. And then once I finished the other video, I submitted the project, and the game was done. And here's the game. Okay, in closing, so there's no actual sound because the game was internal. But I am very happy with this project because this is the first game that I've used code in that I've finished. I've started some games in Unity, and I finished some games in Scratch. Scratch.mid.edu. That's where I got my start in game development. That's what really introduced me to it. And so I was inspired to start in Unity and then do this project. So it's fun. It's good to finally finish something with code. And I'm not saying Scratch isn't a programming language, but it's not like professional. Like I can't get a job using Scratch as a programming language, but I can if I use Python or if I use C#. So I just thought that it was cool that I finally did something and finally finished a project. I actually ended up, I believe, getting an A in my internet computing class, so I'm very happy about that. Praise God. It was a blessing because I didn't have an A, and then my teacher graded my final project and I had an A. So I had got an A. I got a high enough grade on my final project to make it go up. So I was really happy that my teacher was pleased with my project. I wish I could have seen her feedback because I would have liked to see that. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Like I said, I enjoyed working on this project and covering it, and maybe someday I might add some more things and make it a bigger project. Make it like a full-fledged game with graphics and stuff. I might do something like that in the future, but who knows? Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and Jesus loves you. You guys have a great day.